In this small, tight-knit town of Branston, Florida, nestled between the swaying oaks and gentle streets, there was a woman who seemed to possess the warmth of the sun itself. Barbara was the heart of the town, a woman of unwavering kindness, whose infectious laughter could brighten any room. Though she had never given birth, her maternal instincts knew no bounds. She adopted two children, Kofi and Amina, and raised them as if they were her own flesh and blood. Despite facing struggles of her own financial hardship, societal judgment, Barbara never once faltered in her commitment to their happiness. Kofi was the oldest, a boy of remarkable intelligence and maturity, driven by a sense of duty toward his mother that made him wise beyond his years. Amina, his younger sister, was full of life, her spirit as fiery as the sunsets that painted the sky over Branston. Together, the three of them formed a family that was admired by all. As the years passed, Barbara watched with pride as Kofi and Amina soared in their academic pursuits, achieving success that most could only dream of. But as their achievements grew, so did the toll on Barbara's health. First, it was small things fatigue that lingered longer than it should, headaches that wouldn't go away. Then came the diagnosis, an incurable disease, a silent thief slowly taking away her strength. The doctors could offer no answers, only the grim certainty that time was running out. Barbara, ever strong and resolute, faced her illness with quiet grace. She smiled through the pain, comforted by the love of her children, but deep down, she harbored one regret, one dream that had never been realized. In her youth, before life's burdens had consumed her, Barbara had longed to be a dancer. She would sit by the window in her small apartment as a girl, watching the ballerinas twirl gracefully on the television, imagining herself performing on stage. But life had other plans. The dream faded with time, replaced by the harsh realities of adulthood. Now, as the disease ravaged her body, that dream seemed farther away than ever. But Barbara's children never forgot. Kofi and Amina, wise beyond their years, knew that their mother's heart still beat for that dream. As Barbara's health continued to decline, Kofi's mind began to churn with an ideal one that would not only honor his mother's dream, but also bring her a sense of peace in her final days. He made up his mind to approach Dr. Everett, the local physician who had been treating Barbara, with a request that seemed ridiculous, even impossible. "Can we make my mother's dream come true?" Kofi asked. The doctor raised an eyebrow, clearly puzzled. "Kofi, I'm not sure what you mean," he said gently. "I want to give her a moment, one last chance to fulfill her dream of dancing on stage. I know it might sound crazy, but it would mean the world to her. She deserves it." Dr. Everett hesitated. "Kofi, you know as well as I do that her condition is serious. The strain of performing, of even moving, could be too much for her body," but Kofi wouldn't be dissuaded. "Please, Dr. Everett, just think about it. I can't sit by and watch her go without doing anything that might bring her peace." The doctor sighed, his concern written all over his face. "I can't condone this. Kofi, I can't approve of it. Her condition is unstable." Kofi felt a pang of frustration, but didn't give up. "Just think about it, please. I'll find a way. Just give me this one thing." The doctor's stern expression softened as he looked at Kofi, the determination in his eyes. "If you insist, but I won't be able to help you. I fear it may make things worse." Kofi nodded, his heart heavy. "I understand, thank you." That evening, as Dr. Everett made his rounds, checking on Barbara, he noticed something unsettling: the stillness of the room. Barbara had passed quietly in her sleep, her final breaths taken without any sign of struggle. The doctor stood there in shock, his heart sinking as the weight of the moment hit him. Barbara, the resilient woman who had always fought with grace, was gone. But Kofi and Amina had already made their own plans. Their mother's dream would not die with her. They would make it come true, no matter what it took. Weeks before Barbara's death, Kofi had begun making arrangements in secret. He had reached out to the town's theater, working tirelessly with local dancers, choreographers, and even the local music school to create a tribute unlike any other. The whole town came together, united by the desire to fulfill Barbara's last wish. It was an ordinary evening when the invitations arrived. No one suspected what was about to happen. The townspeople gathered at the theater, puzzled by the sudden request to attend. What could it be? They murmured, unsure of the purpose behind the gathering. Some thought it might be a memorial for Barbara, others assumed it was a community event. But when Kofi and Amina arrived, pushing their mother's wheelchair onto the stage, the crowd fell silent in stunned disbelief. Barbara, dressed in a simple but elegant gown, sat in the chair, her face serene and peaceful, though the toll of her illness was apparent. But in that moment, she wasn't the woman who had been plagued by illness. She was the dancer she had always dreamed of being. Kofi stepped forward, his voice trembling with emotion as he spoke into the microphone. "Tonight, we dance for you, Mom," he said softly, his eyes fixed on his mother's face. "This is your dream, this is the gift we give to you." As the lights dimmed, the music began. The dancers twirled gracefully around Barbara, their movements soft and fluid, creating an atmosphere of reverence and love. Kofi and Amina stood at her side, their faces filled with emotion as the music filled the room. And just as the final notes of the music played, as the dance neared its end, something incredible happened. The doors to the theater suddenly burst open, and Dr. Everett appeared, his face bright with hope. "We found it," he shouted. "We found the cure. Barbara, there's a chance you'll recover soon." Kofi and Amina froze, their hearts pounding in their chests. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. Could it be true? Was their mother truly going to live? Tears welled up in Kofi's eyes as he rushed to his mother's side, lifting her into his arms. It's real, Mom." The crowd erupted in joy, their hearts soaring with the news. The family embraced, laughing and crying all at once as the entire town of Branston stood united in a moment of pure happiness. Barbara had been given a second chance, one that no one could have ever imagined. In that moment, Kofi, Amina, and Barbara shared something that could never be taken away: the fulfillment of a dream, the power of love, and the belief that anything was possible. And from that night on, the town of Branston would always remember the woman who taught them that no dream is too big to chase, no matter how late the hour. As the days following that magical night unfolded, the town of Branston found itself awash with a newfound sense of hope. People spoke of Barbara's miracle with a kind of reverence, as if the events that had transpired could only be explained by something divine. It was a story that touched everyone's heart, the tale of a woman who had lived her life with quiet grace, of children who loved her fiercely enough to help her fulfill a dream, and of a community that rallied together to make the impossible possible. Barbara's recovery was nothing short of miraculous. Dr. Everett, though cautious, couldn't deny the sudden, unexpected improvement in her health. The illness that had once drained her strength now seemed to retreat, as if the very act of dancing, of living her dream, had somehow reinvigorated her spirit. The doctors could only explain it as a stroke of luck or an unexplainable medical phenomenon, but Kofi and Amina knew better. They believed that something far more powerful had been at play, a deep, unspoken bond of love that transcended the boundaries of life and death. As Barbara regained her strength, she became an even more cherished figure in the town. People from all over Branston visited her, eager to offer their well wishes and to thank her for inspiring them with her courage and resilience. She had always been kind to others, but now, in the wake of her recovery, her presence seemed to shine even brighter. She had lived through something that few could ever imagine, a near-death experience that had led her to realize how fleeting and precious life truly was. Kofi and Amina, too, were transformed by the experience. They had witnessed firsthand how a single act of love could change the course of a life. But even more than that, they had seen how powerful it could be to honor someone's dreams, no matter how impossible it seemed. It wasn't just about making a wish come true, it was about showing someone that they mattered, that their hopes were worth pursuing, and that they had the strength to overcome any obstacle. In the months that followed, Barbara slowly began to reintroduce herself to the world she had once loved so dearly. She started taking dance classes again, Not in the formal setting she had once imagined, but in the small local studio that had once served as the backdrop to so many of her youthful fantasies. She didn't care about perfection anymore. All that mattered was the joy she felt as she moved, rediscovered her body, and connected with the rhythm of the music. She and Kofi would often sit together, reminiscing about the night of the performance. Kofi would smile softly, remembering the look on her face as she sat in that wheelchair, watching the dancers twirl around her. "You were beautiful, Mom," he would tell her. "The way you smiled like you had finally found the peace you'd been searching for." And Barbara would laugh, her voice light and full of warmth. "It wasn't just the dancers that night, Kofi," she would reply. "It was you and Amina. You gave me the gift of my dream. And that's something no illness or disease can take away." One day, Barbara received a letter in the mail. It was from the mayor of Branston. The letter was an invitation to a special event, a celebration of life and community to be held in the town square. It was an occasion meant to honor those who had made a difference in the town's history. Barbara's name had been nominated by none other than Kofi and Amina. When the day of the event arrived, the entire town gathered in the square. The air was thick with anticipation as people chatted excitedly about the upcoming celebration. But as the event began, something unexpected happened. Kofi and Amina walked to the front of the crowd, each holding a single white rose. They approached Barbara, who was seated on a small stage, beaming with joy. With a tender smile, Kofi stepped forward and handed Barbara the first rose. "This is for you, Mom, for everything you've done for us, for this town, and for yourself." Amina followed suit, presenting Barbara with the second rose. "And for showing us that it's never too late to chase your dreams, no matter what." The crowd stood in awe, the love and gratitude between the family palpable in the cool evening air. Then, with a flourish, a group of dancers from the local studio appeared, performing a beautiful piece in Barbara's honor. It was simple, but the emotions it conveyed were profound. As the dancers moved gracefully across the stage, Barbara joined them, her body strong and sure as she swirled into a pirouette. She was no longer just a woman who had lived with regret. She was a woman who had rediscovered the joy of living, and in doing so, had become an inspiration to all who knew her. The town of Branston would never be the same again. The events that had unfolded in the last few months became a part of the town's folklore story of love, resilience, and the power of a single dream. And though Barbara had once thought that time had passed her by, she had learned that it was never too late to dance to the rhythm of your heart. As the music faded and the last dancer took a bow, Barbara stood before the crowd, her eyes filled with gratitude. She had lived her dream, and in doing so, had found something even more precious, a deep, unshakable connection to the people who loved her and to the world around her. It was a connection that no illness could ever take away. And as the crowd erupted into applause, Barbara whispered softly to herself, "Tonight, I dance for myself and for the love that carried me here." The story of Barbara, Kofi, and Amina became a legend in Branston, a testament to the unbreakable bond of family, the transformative power of love, and the unwavering belief that dreams, no matter how long deferred, can always be brought to life.